So I've been kind of tent shopping for a couple of years, and I just have, I've tried a few things. I just haven't found anything that really checks all the boxes for me. And I don't just buy everything that comes down the pike. But this Durston X-Mid 40 pack I bought, I'm really happy with it. And I decided to try Durston's tent. I bought the X-Mid one-person solid. I want the solid because if I like this tent, it's going to see a lot of action, and I just like that double wall solid inner, which is what my Hilleberg has, which I've been using for 20 years. And so anyway, I'll speed up the action here a little bit and unbox it and show you how it fits into the pack. So the reason for the purchase is, I'm always trying to get lighter without giving up anything, and I want a tent that's easy as far as setup, as light as possible. Storm resistant is a top priority for me. And I've been wanting to, get a model that incorporates trekking poles, but the drawbacks for pole tents for me has been Dyneema. I'm not a big fan of Dyneema. High sidewall design where the wind can get underneath. No zipper doors. Too much fiddling when I'm setting it up as far as angles. I want a double wall. And so, maybe I was asking too much, but this thing seems to check most of those boxes, so I wanted to give it a shot. Even though this tent seems to address, all those concerns for me, the jury's still out. I have to take it out and do a few laps. It has to perform as well as my Hilleberg tents. I've had them for 20 years. For me, Hilleberg is the gold standard. I just want to try a small trekking pole tent that checks all the boxes. And, when I've bought other tents in the last year, and I actually wrote Hilleberg and apologized, told them I'd gone out on them. And I set the tent back, and I'm back with my Hilleberg tent, but I just, again, you're a fossil if you stop changing and trying, and so I'm going to try. And you can see this fits into the bag perfectly, so first step, good. Okay, so this is like a first date. I'm just setting this thing up inside to actually put the inner in it, but my first impression is, holy mackerel, this thing is huge. And, I kind of like a small footprint. I'm used to my Hilleberg, it angles down at each end. So this is going to take some getting used to for me. So until I get it outside and have some room to really peg it out, it's not real tight in here. I'm just holding it up with bricks, but I did get the inner tent in, and it's real simple to put it together. What I did have a problem with, though, and I thought maybe they forgot them, was the magnet door holder, but, I was looking for something much bigger, and it seems really strong, and it's very small. Right here, just a little magnet there, and I'm feeling around, and I finally found something hard, and I thought, oh, that's the magnet, and then it was stuck together on the inside. It just looked like a loop, but I've got that figured out. Anyway, I'll take this thing out and really peg it out and get it nice and straight, and let you look at it. So I've been playing with this a little bit. My advice would be, in first setting this up, would be to watch Dan Durston's setup video. It's very good. You might have to watch it a couple times because there are little things that you might miss, but basically you set it up in a rectangle that doesn't look like a Z. I'm blind in one eye, have no depth perception, but I'm really not protractor challenged, so I think I can set up a rectangle. And the other thing is to tighten the corners. Once you stake it down, tighten the corners. Now my other challenge is I don't have, I've made these storage poles and they don't adjust. And so on the website it looks like he's suggesting 46 and a half inches. you know, I put my telescoping poles in the first few times I set it up, then measured them, and you know, when I got it really tight and looking nice, I took them out, and mine were over 48 inches, and that's with the tip up into the grommets. Again, I with my poles, I really don't want to do that. My poles with those tips on the end measure about 49 inches, and so I want tip down, but I've put it up, you know, with just this flat edge up, and it seems good and solid. I mean, really, I've tried adding some lines on the sides, but typically I'm going to use this with 4 stakes. It's good and solid with 4 stakes. I always carry extra stakes, so I'll have stakes to tie out the ends if I get bad weather, tie out the sides. You know, you don't want to get up in the middle of the night when there's chaos just on the other side of your polyester. It's like living in a flag some nights in a hurricane. You want to have that tent set up, so if you see weather coming in, I'd use more than the 4 stakes. But anyway, I'll set this up with my poles, which tips down, come out to 48 inches, so maybe 48 1/4, depending on soft ground. And so it looks fine. We'll do that now. So Durston's video says, you know, to, you know, stake this down, then tighten the corners. He said the problem most people make is they don't tighten those corners, but maybe it's because of my longer poles that don't adjust. I don't know, but there's a lot of stress at the door corners when you're putting these poles in. So I tighten it all down, but then I loosen these 2 corners up when I put my pole in, and then adjust them. That's good and solid. I mean, again, 4 stakes with this thing is what I'll usually use, because it's it would take a blow, I'm sure. And that's with tips down and my big 1 1/4 top of my pole up. You know, I've seen people tie things up in there to hang on to those things, but I don't think it's going to need it. And again, this ridge line on this looks, you know, not like I see on the video, so maybe my poles are too high, and you know, if that turns out to be the case and it makes any difference, you know, I'll deal with that and fix it. You know, I've put lines here, supposedly, you know, you pull that wall out, it's going to pull that inner tin out, but I don't notice that much difference. I'll leave this line on here, but I probably won't pull that out unless I've got weather coming in. Got one on both sides. You know, I'll leave these on too, of course, but I won't use these unless they've got weather coming in, because this is a good solid tent. What I will do and have done is, and Durston suggested, is I staked this side out just so that I don't have to, when I'm zipping, I don't have to hang on to this, but I'll hardly ever use the other vestibule. You know, if it's hot, I need some ventilation, you can open both sides. That's the nice thing about this.
when you're setting up, a lot of times, you know, with my Hillyberg, it opens up on one side, so I want to set it up the direction that I want to face. With this one, it doesn't matter. You just sleep the other way and have the other vestibule, but I would always stake this side. I doubt I'm even going to add lines to these others for, you know, unless I got into a blow that blew my tent down. And I don't think that's going to happen. I wouldn't add the other stakes, you know, but I always carry extra stakes, so I've got bare rope, so if I wanted to add some at some point in time, I've got the stakes, I've got the material to add that. But I want to use it as a 4-stake tent, and I guess 5, and I really like this thing. It's and if you look at my Hillyberg, you know, I had it in the I call that my meditation shack, or now my COVID drinking room when I'm home, and in there it looked huge, but you know, really it's about the same size as my Hillyberg without the tapered end, so I don't think the footprint problem is going to be any issue at all.
The other thing is the ground sheet. If you buy a ground sheet from the manufacturer, and Durston's no different, you're just protecting your inside bathtub floor of your inner tent. And I want to, you know, I want to protect my vestibule, my gear in my vestibule, so I want that covered too. You know, Glenn Campbell once said when he was a kid, his folks carpeted the bathroom, and they liked it so much they ran it right into the house. And so I like my ground cloth so much, my ground sheet, that I want to run it all the way into my vestibule. And if this doesn't cover it, I mean, I've had this piece for years, and I could buy another piece for this tent, but it's worked on my Hillyberg. I'm sure it'll protect the floor here, run out a little bit into the vestibule, and then I have my patrol poncho that, you know, if I want to cover some other area. Because the other problem with these tent pole supported tents, hiking pole supported tents, is that you can't get your ground cloth under it unless you lift it up and, you know, straighten it out under there and then drop it back down. So, you know, I'll work around that. That's not an annoyance really at all. I think it'll be fine. This will come out on the other side of the pole, and if I want to use this corner back here, you know, I'll just put my patrol poncho there.
So I've just been playing with this. I'll take it out this week, but, you know, this is like a first date. Actually a cheap date, because this tent is half the price, less than half of everything else I was looking at. And you know, right now we just have to figure out if we're compatible, if we're attracted to each other, if there's anything that annoys us. And so far, my first impressions are the same thing as my Kakwa pack. This is, you know, as advertised. The fact that, you know, it's so sturdy with 4 pegs just blows my mind. I like this tent so far, and I think after this week, hopefully I get some wind. I'd like a real windstorm to sleep in this thing and really test it out. And as I find out more about my relationship, I'll let you know. Keep smiling.